We just had a big earthquake at 4 o'clock.
Now that is video from Fresno of the shaking felt there. Fresno is across the Sierra Nevada from the epicenter.
Though the coronavirus pandemic was relatively slow to hit many developing countries, the World Food Program warns the outbreak could cause widespread famines of biblical proportions.
Now to Kenya, where a second wave of desert locusts has descended on East Africa. Estimates indicate that it will be 20 times worse than the swarms that made their way through the region 2 months ago. The UN says the locusts present an unprecedented threat to food security and livelihoods.
But now the World Food Program analysis shows also, due to the coronavirus, that an additional 130 million people could be pushed to the brink of starvation by the end of 2020. That's a total of 265 million people.
The locusts, billions of them, have devoured hundreds of hectares of crops across the region, hitting countries with already delicate food situations. Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda have so far been affected by the swarms.
Well, the second wave is mainly locusts which have bred now, which are breeding now in Ethiopia and Kenya, which are not their usual breeding grounds. And this is because, especially over the past few months, there have been heavy rains here outside the normal rainy season, and that has basically created the perfect breeding ground for the locusts.
But experts say this won't be enough. The insects are breeding so fast, their numbers could multiply by 500 in just a few months. The UN is calling on the international community to help, saying it needs more than $70 million to fund what it calls a rapid response to stop the bugs.
This is the first supercyclone forming over the Bay of Bengal in more than 20 years.
And destroying homes by the hundreds. Pounding India's eastern coastline, the strongest cyclone in over a decade. Winds reached 100 miles per hour, knocking down trees and damaging metal roofs.
It was the strongest tropical storm on record as it tracked north through the Bay of Bengal with wind speeds of 270 miles an hour. But they were barely half that by the time the vortex made landfall close to the border of Bangladesh and India. Scientists believe the record sea temperatures that fueled the storm may have been caused in part by more sunlight filtering through pollution-free skies during the pandemic lockdown.
Howling winds and driving rain. Cyclone Amphan unleashed its formidable force as it made landfall.
In neighboring Bangladesh, riverbanks overflowed.
And neighboring Bangladesh are bearing the brunt of the cyclone. With wind gusts of up to 190 kilometers per hour, the storm is the strongest to hit the area in over a decade.
Climate change is fueling superstorms. The sea temperature in the Bay of Bengal reached 34 degrees in the first 2 weeks of May. The energy from such warm water whips up the wind speed. Strong storms are increasing by 8% a decade. Rising temperatures also increase rainfall from storms. Research suggests it will surge by 20% in the coming decades. The new normal of climate change will make poorer countries even more vulnerable to other emergencies such as pandemics.
This is a clear view of what happens when two crises come together.
Egypt has never seen such a storm in over 2 decades. The last time a similar storm has hit was in 1994. Adel Mahroui, CGTN. Egypt's sunshine vanished, and Cairo's heavy traffic disappeared, and the government has advised citizens to remain at home as the toughest storm in decades hit. Sandstorms from the south are colliding with thunderstorms from the north. These extreme weather conditions will continue until Saturday.
Wild weather has blasted parts of the country's south and southeast and bringing powerful winds and a blanket of hail to backyards. Look at that.
Yeah, oh, it's amazing, isn't it? Roofs have been torn from dozens of homes as a freak storm smashed Geelong's southern suburbs. Up to 60 properties were damaged, with weather experts investigating if it was a tornado.
From a distance, it looks like a scene from a Hollywood disaster movie. But this is Warren Ponds, torn apart by a storm no one saw coming. Up to 60 homes slammed in minutes.
It all happened so fast and it was like a bit of a disbelief. Is this a dream sort of a thing?
Good evening. WA is on high alert tonight as an out-of-season cyclone looms off our coast, set to power a once-in-a-decade storm across the state.
As we head into the first weekend of open borders between Perth and the southwest, drivers are being warned to reconsider travelling because a once-in-a-decade superstorm is bearing down. Winds up to 130 kilometres an hour and 100 millimetres of rain are forecast as it hits most of the state.
The remains of a cyclone and a cold front collide. Perth's only seen a storm like this twice in 26 years. Destructive and widespread. It's due to hit on Sunday. The danger zone is where the two systems meet and the location's difficult to predict. Expect gusts up to 130 kilometres an hour, up to 100 mils of rain, waves towering more than 8 metres high.
Let's bring in Shirley Biggs. And Sherry, why is this unusual for this time of year?
Well, usually, Trace, we'd be experiencing the humble winter cold front at this time of year. Instead, we're dealing with an out-of-season cyclone. The last time we saw a cyclone in Western Waters this late in May was back in 1981.
Estamos en Terán con una pinche granizada que nunca había visto en mi vida. Estas madres son fácil unas pelotas de tenis. Está de la chingada. Aquí nos resbalamos arriba un techo, abajo un techito.
These were tweeted out by the Nevada Highway Patrol with some deep cracks there.
Yeah, kind of like Ridgecrest.
Oh, yes. Well, overnight, the 6.5 magnitude earthquake struck just west of Tonopah. A researcher says it was the largest quake in the state in 65 years. Thankfully, no one was hurt.
A 6.5 magnitude earthquake sent waves through Tonopah.
I mean, it shook my house, it shook the walls.
This morning, Highway 95, the main road between Las Vegas and Reno, Nevada, is closed.
Wow.
You can see why. While authorities assess the damage from the earthquake to this major highway.
The local sheriff's office gave us this footage. 20 miles of 95 are shut down right now, and that is the main route between Reno and Vegas. The main quake was followed by several powerful aftershocks, including a 5.1 less than a half an hour after the main event.
The quake was only 1.5 miles deep into the Earth's surface. One resident said he'd never felt anything like it.
Actually, I was laying in bed, wide awake, and I felt it. It seemed to last about 20 seconds. It was pretty violent.
So many reports. We felt it in the newsroom. 4:03, the lights started shaking here in our newsroom, and we knew right away. It's just like, let's get on the USGS website.
I was just in my room in bed, getting ready to go to sleep, and the room started shaking, and my windows have kind of like stick blinds on it. They started clicking against the windows.